Hello student, welcome back to our MSc First Physics Semester 2nd course, that is Atoms and Molecules, and our subject code is PSCT 122, and this is our 17th lecture, and we are studying our third module, that is a spectroscopic techniques, and in that module we have covered some types of the spectroscopic techniques, and we are studying another type of spectroscopic techniques. So in that, in previous lecture we have started the FTR spectroscopy, and we have also discussed about the basic principle of the FTR spectroscopy and different phenomena which comes under the FTR spectroscopy. All those things we have studied in our previous lecture. Also we have studied about the FTR spectrophotometer, that means how we get the FTR spectra with the help of Michelson interferometer. The main component of the FTR spectrometer is nothing but the Michelson interferometer, and with the help of that how the FTR spectrophotometer work, all those things we have covered in our previous lecture. Now in this lecture we have to study about the for particular example of the FTR spectra, that is the analysis of SCR spectrum by FTR and applications of the FTR spectroscopy. That means here we have to consider the special example or special case, that is a SCL, and from the FTR spectra we have to analyze the SCL spectrum, and also we have to study the applications of the FTIR. So first we will discuss about the analysis of SCL spectrum. So let's start. Analysis of SCL spectrum. The infrared spectrum of SCL is a distinctive and radially observed even in a presence of water vapor interference. As already we mentioned in a sample handling techniques in FTR, we know that there are different techniques to treat the sample, but in a FTR spectra or simply IR spectra, due to water or the presence of moisture, we get the unwanted peaks or unwanted interference pattern, and due to that we get the corresponding spectra, but there is no need of that unwanted peaks. But in SCL spectrum, the spectra is the distinctive and radially observed even in presence of the water vapor interference. That means even if there is a presence of the water vapor interference, we will get the spectra of the SCL in a good manner. So this is the beneficial for the infrared spectrum of the SCL. SCL appears as a series of doublet peaks that rise, fall to 0, and then rise and again fall to the 0. So in this way we have a doublet spectrum of the SCL. First it goes or it rises and after that falls to 0. Again same procedure for the second peak, that is again rises and fall to 0. So in this way we have a doublet in the SCL spectrum or the IR spectrum of the SCL. These regular peaks are observed between 2600 centimeter inverse and 3100 centimeter inverse. That means this is the wave number range. In that wave number range we have the different peaks of the SCL spectrum. Each peak is split into the doublet with the ratio 3:1 based on the ratio of, that is a two isotopes of the chlorine, that is a 35 Cl as to 37 Cl. These are the two isotopes of the chlorine, and the peak intensity or the peak split into two doublet or two peaks, and this splitting occurs in the ratio that is 3:1, and this ratio is for the chlorine isotope, that is a chlorine 35 and chlorine 37. The mid-infrared spectrum of SCL is shown in the figure. That means how looks like the SCL spectrum, all those things is shown in this chart or this graph. Here the graph is absorptance versus the wave number, and wave number is in centimeter inverse. So this is the mid-infrared spectrum of the SCL, and this mid-infrared spectrum of SCL falls within the range that is 2600 to 3100 centimeter inverse, and this is the wave number range. And here we get the two main peaks, that is this and this. It rises and again falls to 0, and similarly here it rises and again falls to 0, but each peak consists of two peak. So here we have the two peaks, and these peaks are in the ratio that is a 3:1. That means this ratio 3:1, and this is for the chlorine isotope, that is a 35 Cl and 37 Cl. So here we get the doublet, that is this doublet, this doublet, this doublet. So each peak consists of two small peaks. One is a large and another is a small. So the large peak has an intensity that is a 3, and the small peak has an intensity that is a 1. That is the ratio is a 3:1, or we can take it a opposite way. So depending on how we consider. Also here we have the different branches. We know that in a birotational spectrum or in a rotational spectrum we have different branches like O, P, Q, R, S. All those are the different branches. So here in SCL spectrum we have P branch, that means this region. Here we have Q branch, that means this region, and here we have R branch. So the three branches are present here in a SCL spectrum. Again, this is a absorption spectra of the SCL, and which is in the mid infrared region. So in this way we can represent the SCL spectrum or the IR spectrum of the SCL. The regular pattern of peaks for the SCL is common for diatomic molecules such as HF, HBr, CO and NO as well. That means this spectra is for the SCL. Similarly, the spectra for the diatomic molecule like HF, that is hydrogen fluoride, hydrogen bromide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide. So all those things is similar for those diatomic molecules. That means the regular peaks which are observed in a SCL spectrum are similar in these molecules. That means the regular pattern of the peaks observed in all those diatomic molecules is similar like in a SCL. It is due to rotational transition between the ground and the first excited vibrational states of the molecule. That means these peaks are observed due to rotational transition between the ground state. That means there is a transition between the rotational states and the first excited vibrational state, and these transitions are known as the P branch and for the lower energy level, and R branch for the higher energy level as shown in the spectra. Here we have a wave number, and here is a R branch and here is a P branch. Here is a P branch for the lower wave number, and here is the R branch for the higher wave number. But what is the wave number? If we consider the in terms of lambda, that is a wavelength, we know that wave number, that is a nu, is equal to 1 by lambda. This is the relation between the wave number and lambda, that is a wavelength. That means the reciprocal of the lambda is nothing but the wave number. So here in this spectra, here we have a lower wave number for the P branch. So which implies that here we have higher lambda. For the lower wave number, that is a nu bar, we have a higher lambda because they are inversely related to each other. And here for the higher wave number we have a lower lambda. So and again we know that the relation is equal to E is equal to H nu. So this is the relation between, here is a nu, relation between frequency and energy. Again we know that another relation, that is a C is equal to nu lambda. This is another relation. Here we relate the frequency and wavelength. So here we have the inverse relation between the frequency and wavelength. So in this way here we can also write for the 1 by lambda. Here we can write, that is a lambda is inversely proportional to again 1 by nu. That means this is the relation between the frequency and wavelength. So here we can indirectly write for the, instead of 1 by lambda, we can write directly nu. And again we know that the E is directly proportional to nu. That means the energy is directly proportional to the frequency. So here we can directly relate if we have the lower energy, that means E is less, and the P branch, that means for the P branch here in the spectra, here P branch, that means this branch, we have the lower wave number. Lower wave number means we have here, according to that, lower wave number, that means nu bar, that means we have higher wavelength, and due to higher wavelength we have a lower frequency here, and due to lower frequency we have a lower energy. So this is the relationship between the energy, frequency, wavelength and wave number. So for lower wave number we have a lower energy, because for that we have a higher lambda, and due to higher lambda the frequency is less, and due to that the energy is also less. So here we have P branch on the lower wave number side or lower energy side, that means higher wavelength side, and here the R branch is for the higher wave number or lower wavelength or higher energy. So in this way here we can write for the P branch, which is a lies in the lower energy region, and here R branch which is lies in the higher energy level, and all those things we can explain with the help of all those relationships. So in this way we get the P branch, R branch in the FTIR spectrum of the SCL. So in this way we are able to analyze the SCL spectrum. Now what are the applications of the FTIR spectroscopy? So there are different applications of the FTIR spectroscopy. So here first application is the identification of the organic compound. We know that in chemistry there are different organic compounds. If we want to identify a particular compound, then we can use the FTIR spectroscopy. Second is the structure determination. That means we are able to determine the structure of the given compound with the help of FTIR spectroscopy. Third application is the study of chemical reaction. That means if we have a particular chemical reaction and we want to study that chemical reaction, then also we can use the FTIR spectroscopy. Now study of keto-enol tautomerism. That means this is a keto-enol tautomerism is a particular phenomena in a chemistry, and this phenomena is also studied with the help of FTIR spectroscopy. Fifth application is the study of complex molecules. That means if we have a long chain molecules like a protein, we can study all those molecules with the help of FTIR spectroscopy again. Sixth application is the detection of impurities in a compound. We know that during the formation of the compound there are many impurities present in that compound. Still we are eliminate some of them impurities, but still some impurities remains in that compound. So in order to detect all those impurities in that compound, we can use the FTIR spectroscopy. Seventh application is the conformational analysis. That means the conformational analysis which is done with the help of FTIR spectroscopy. So these all are the different applications of the FTIR spectroscopy, and FTIR spectroscopy used in a variety of way and in the different fields. So again here we have studied some of them applications, but the FTIR spectroscopy has a wide range of applications in a different fields. So in this way we have covered the all topics which comes under the FTIR spectroscopy. That means what is the FTIR spectroscopy, basic principle of the FTIR spectroscopy. Now after that some history of the FTIR spectroscopy, again how we get the spectra of the particular sample with the help of FTIR spectroscopy, and all those things obtained by using the FTIR spectrophotometer or spectrometer, and the main part of the spectrometer is the Michelson interferometer. Also we have studied how the Michelson interferometer works and how we get the spectra, or we get the information about each and every frequency component which is emitted from the source, and there is an interaction between the radiation which is emitted from the source and sample, and after that we get a particular spectra. So all those things we have covered under the FTIR spectroscopy. Also in this lecture we have studied about the analysis of SCL spectrum, and also we have studied the application of the FTIR spectroscopy. So all those things about the FTIR spectroscopy we have all covered. Now in our upcoming lecture we will start with the new spectroscopic techniques, that is a Raman spectroscopy.